Wow, that was fun. Hey, everybody, this is Toby Eunice with Gypsy's Kiss. Stick with me for a couple of seconds as I come back out of Our Lady in the Oracle, Our Lady in the Oracle, Lady in the Oracle, and we will talk a whole bunch of Fenn radio stuff. So somewhere along the line, I forgot to change my streaming key, so I was streaming out to Lady in the Oracle, which was kind of embarrassing. Thank you for joining me tonight. The other thing I can't seem to get working here is my Bosch Jock. It's making funny noises. And let me see if I just want to see if you guys can hear this noise. Just let me know if you can hear it, because I can't see it. Yes. So there's nothing there. All right, so I'm not sure why the old Bosch Jock isn't working. I could use it. That's where I get my background sound effects. But I don't know why it's not cooperating tonight. So here we are without Bosch Jock and on the right stream. And you know what? I guess I should be happy with what I have, considering how busy a day it was. Shelley and I were literally working up until about 15 minutes ago, and her husband came to pick her up, and she drove off and called me about 3 minutes later, and she said, do you remember that you have to do a show tonight? And I said, no, I hadn't remembered that, but here we are. So that's why I'm running a little bit late. So let me tell you a little bit about what the plan is for tonight. I've got a couple of questions that I have to read that I got in the form of text messages since the last time we did a program, and I want to take care of those first. Actually, I think I've done all the rest, so there's probably only one. Then I'll open up the phone lines tonight. The phone line for, well, not tonight. The AGK phone line is 866-597-9901. You can call that, I'm sorry, you can send a text message to that right now, or you can call and leave a voicemail of up to 2 minutes with questions relating to the Fenn treasure. And then after I've gotten through those questions, whatever they may be, then we'll open up the phone lines and you're welcome to call. And I'm not sure I have the same confidence that it's going to work on my mixer, because I don't know why my Bosch Jock is not working on my mixer. It's plugged in there. Audio's up. Mute is not on. So, oh well. We'll just figure it out another time, since I don't use it on any of our other channels. So, kind of some background. Shelley and I are doing real well with our other channel, Lady in the Oracle, and it's starting to grow. It's starting to catch on. We're starting to get views. We're over 100 subscribers now. And we feel like it's going to move on. We've got some things planned for it. We are going to be starting yet another channel. It's called Four Corners Travel.tv, where we're going to start doing travel vlogs of the Four Corners area. The Four Corners, for those of you that are not familiar with it, if you're in the Southwest, you of course are. But if you're not in the Southwest, the Four Corners represent the line crossing, the state lines crossing at the corner of New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. And there is much to be seen in those in that Four Corners area, and they're all reachable within a day's drive or so. Some of them a little bit longer. The ones way up in northwestern Utah might be a little bit tougher. But we started another channel because we're going to be doing some travel vlogs for some of the scenery and scenics and locations that we've always enjoyed going to, and we've never actually made videos on. So we're going to start doing that. Things like White Sands here in Albuquerque. We have Petroglyphs National Monument. We have the National Nuclear Museum is here in Albuquerque. Not far from us, less than 3 hours, I guess, less than 3 hours, is Chaco Canyon National Historical Site. Beyond that is Mesa Verde. Beyond that is the Dinosaur National Monument. Dinosaur, what is it? Dinosaur something National Monument. But there's all these places that we wanted to start. Not that we haven't visited a lot of them already, but we wanted to make short little travel videos. So we started another channel. You won't see it on YouTube. You won't be able to find it because there's nothing there yet. We started another channel called Four Corners, the number 4 corners.tv, and you can reach us at 4corners.tv. gypsytv@gmail.com. And of course, we'll have its own 800 number. And our strategy, as I said, is to start developing videos for that channel that relate to the scenics in the Four Corners states, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. And we'll simulcast them when we present those videos. We'll do it as a live stream and show the video and then turn that into a processed video. But at the same time, we may simulcast it to a Gypsy's Kiss just because we can. So I thought we covered this last week. This was, I don't recall ever hearing you state your opinion on the, I'm sure we did. As a matter of fact, I gave you a reference. That was the question about my home of Brown. Now, again, I'm alone tonight. No Shelley, no producers, no moderators. So if you have a question, it's going to be very difficult for me to see it going by in the chat room because I've got to deal with all the things about processing this stream. So if you have a question, please send it, text it to the 1-800 number, or in this case, the 1-866 number, 866-597-9901. That's a toll-free number, so you don't have to feel like it's going to cost you anything more than what your service provider normally charges you for a text. And by now, you should do like the rest of us and have just the unlimited plan. I wonder why my Boss Jock doesn't work. That bothers me. So we'll be able to say hi to anyone. And then after I'm through the text messages, then, like I said, we'll open up the phone lines. You guys can call in. We'll talk about all things Fenn. So I'm trying to remember if there's anything that's happened regarding Fenn this week. I think it's been relatively quiet. There's been some conversations in the various forums. I read that Stephanie 30acre is looking to sell Chase Chat to someone else. Apparently her divorce has reached its conclusion after, she said, 27 years of marriage. And I know if there's anybody that represents how difficult the chase has been on anyone, it's probably Stephanie 30acre. She had her moments. But I think it was wearing on her. And I think she's just ready to kind of step away from it, get rid of Chase Chat and go on to other parts of her life. And who knows what that may be. We never know. But it sounds to me like it's time for her to make a transition. And she respects that the fates are telling her that. So I'm sure she'll go ahead and do that. So I mentioned, so YouTube has this new feature called Community. It takes place of discussions, and really it's something that I had been asking for years, literally. Not that they pay attention to me because I'm a small content producer. But one of the things that they added to the channel is something called Community. It takes place of something that used to be called Discussions, and discussions were odd because they were individual comments that you addressed. The Community feature is more like what I wanted, which was a YouTube channel related blog. You can put text in there, you can put images, you can put other videos in there, and you can make comments on anything that I put in. I'm not sure if you guys can add to the community. I think I have to start the post by saying something, and I did that with several items this week, including a couple of images. I put in a video that was a time lapse that came off my Osmo, and once I saw it, I thought the resolution was terrible, and that wasn't my fault. That was the Osmo's fault, because somehow as it processed the time lapse, it processed it down to 720p, which is terrible resolution for YouTube. So I took it off there, but then I added a couple of images and I added some notes. And one of the notes that I added is, you know, we've spent the last couple of weeks in kind of in, I don't want to say in a confusion, but certainly we were confusing some of our subscribers, and part of that, well, and there's three reasons for that. Number one, our focus on the development of the new channel. Number two, the fact that I took a trip out east to visit to spend time with my granddaughter. She was celebrating her 1-year-old birthday, and in the process I caught a cold, and that cold, you know, today is actually 2 weeks since I realized I had a cold, and I'm just coming off of that thing. And I don't know whether that's just the nature of colds nowadays, or the fact that I'm getting older and colds affect me. And my doctor, I went to visit the VA because I needed some medication, and in order to do that, I had to make a visit to the emergency room, and he said you can expect this to last from the time you get it to the time that you start feeling normal again, 3 weeks, and that's still 1 week off. So you can hear a little bit of it in my throat. You'll hear a little bit of stuffiness as well, but for the most part, the fever's gone. You know, I've been able to move around, not just lay in bed and complain to nobody because I don't live with anybody. But I feel like most of it's gone. So the point that I'm trying to make is we were kind of off schedule in a lot of ways. We missed our schedule on A Gypsy's Kiss. We missed our schedule on Lady in the Oracle. And at the same time, we're working on developing this new channel, the Four Corners Travel. And we're also building a course for our Udemy channel. So there was a lot going on, and so we finally sat down over the weekend and had a conversation about, okay, so where's the schedule going to be? And so what came out of that is the fact that I'll be doing live streams on A Gypsy's Kiss on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 p.m., except, of course, this Thursday, since it's a holiday, and we're sure that there's not going to be anybody around. And for the people that are around, they're going to be suffering from that, what's that chemical that is in Turkey that puts you to sleep? Because by 9 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, I just want to go to bed at that point. So I think that's where our regular programming is going to go for A Gypsy's Kiss, 9 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Bill Cross, you are not late. We're only 17 minutes into this. So 9 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Tuesdays and Thursdays, A Gypsy's Kiss, live chat. By next week, I should have my boss jock working. You have the new phone number, 866-597-9901, which you can text at any time with questions. You can leave a voicemail, and these are 24/7, text message with questions, leave a voicemail with questions or concerns. And then as soon as we get done with those, we'll be opening up the phone line. So if you feel like calling. So we actually spoke, Davio has been visiting us on our Lady in the Oracle channel, as has Heather, what's Heather's last name? Some tryptophan. No, her last name is not tryptophan. Heather Brown? You know which Heather I'm talking about. So she's been visiting at Our Lady in the Oracle. So I went to junior high school at Our Lady of Guadalupe not here, but in Santa Fe. And so I think of Lady in the Oracle, and every once in a while I refer to it as Our Lady in the Oracle, which of course wouldn't make the Catholic Church happy, or any of my nuns or Christian brothers that taught me through the years. Okay, so without further ado, a reminder, I can't watch the chat room, so you guys have a nice conversation. If you have a question for me, pop it out to the 866 number. I'm going to take the questions from there, and then I'll open up the phone lines, and if you guys want to talk, we'll just talk on the phone. So let's see. Actually, what I should do at this point, let me say hi to the folks in the room. There's my friend Davio, David Hoffman out of California. Hey, Davio. Deep thinking treasure searcher. Wow. Is that a new name? I haven't seen that before. Evan Penn. Indulgence is in the room. Mark Brown, Steve Logan, Steve Smitherman, William, who managed to make the last 5 minutes of our Lady in the Oracle show, of not our Lady in the Oracle, but our Lady in the Oracle show this afternoon. World Famous Gamer at Toby. How about my Star Wars intro thing? You know what? I've got it on here, but I'm World Famous Gamer, or WFG as I like to call you. It's on here, but I can't play anything. Tell me if you guys hear this. No, I can see that I'm not here. It's plugged in and goes to the right. The mute is off. The volume is up. That's SFX. And it is not pumping through. Why is it not pumping through? Gain is correct. I don't know. Something in the iPad. I have yet to figure out iPads. They are my bane, if you will. So let's keep saying hi to people. We already said hi to Steve Smitherman, WFG, Indulgence, Evan Penn, Steve Wayne, No Noise. Yeah, I know. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I'll get it fixed. Blue Mango from New Jersey. Journeyman. Hey, Journeyman, how are you doing? Michael J. Forney. Here, here. 11 Bravo to Papa, our friend from the United States Army, a infantryman and paratrooper. Let's see. The Art of Tracking. Wow. What a great name. I suppose you're talking about tracking. Well, no, you don't need to do any tracking for the Fenn treasure, do you? Neil Broughton, hi to you. Bill Cross, nice to see you again. David Dow, have I already said? Aaron Herlihy is in the room. Copper Dan, how are you doing? How are your sales on eBay doing, Copper? I remember you mentioning to someone recently that they were doing real well. And let's see, did I say hi to Neil Broughton? Okay. So I think we've gotten caught up there. I imagine because of the time, we're going to have smaller chat rooms than we've had in the past. 9 o'clock, puts it at 11 o'clock for the East Coasters. So they have that's a hard decision to make. But like I said, we had to do something about our schedule because we've got 3 nighttime shows a week now with Lady in the Oracle on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They're also at 9 o'clock. And then we have 2 daytime shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. So it was getting busy. And then as the development of the new channel for Four Corners Travel .tv comes online, it's even going to get busier. So, but the nice thing about it is you guys know that I probably know by now that I do have a lot of video production equipment that we don't necessarily have to use when we're doing the live stream, either for AGK or Our Lady in the Oracle. That sits in the closet, and I was going through it over the weekend, and there's a lot of stuff that I haven't used in so long. I had to refresh my memory with it. There's a couple of stabilizers in there that I haven't used in a while, and I had to remember how to use them. I've got a beautiful time-lapse rail and motor as an entire system, battery-powered system, that enables me to take these 30-minute-long time lapses while the camera's in motion, etc., etc. It's made by a company called Revolve, and I haven't had a chance to use it. And I sat in the garage on Sunday and kind of retaught myself how to use it because a lot of this equipment is going to come into play as we start developing out the fourcornerstravel.tv. So we're looking forward to that. And as I said, when we do the shows on Four Corners Travel, we'll simulcast them to a Gypsy's Kiss so that you guys can see them here as well. Not that we'll move away from the Fenn topic. This is kind of an enhancement. It's not the Rocky Mountains, although there isn't anything that prevents us just because we called it Four Corners Travel. Doesn't mean we can travel to other locations that are not in the Four Corners area, perhaps in the Rocky Mountains area. But there's enough coverage of a lot of those places. I don't think you'll ever see us do coverage of Yellowstone, for example. There's plenty of coverage of Yellowstone. Okay, so let's get to. Like I said, so the question regarding the home of Brown I answered last week. That was the point that I was trying to make. So in that community settings, I put a link to that document that's produced by the American Fishery Society. You can find a link to that document which explains why brown trout is capitalized. And then that related back to the conversation that I had with someone, to this gentleman here, about why I thought the home of Brown related to brown trout. So this is... excuse me, This is a question in a similar vein. The question is about my particular strategies as opposed to Fenn treasure strategies in general. And I think this is not the first time that I've explained this. So this is from Dan in Tennessee, and he says, your warm waters halt on the New Mexico State fishing map. Fishing regulations map. So I'm going to fill in the blanks here. Let me just read it and then we'll interpret it. Your warm waters halt on the New Mexico State fishing map, which changes from year to year. How do you explain that? Well, Dan, it's actually not that hard. So first, a couple of things. For several years prior to 2017, prior to mid-2017, when I had effectively a Fenn nervous breakdown, for lack of a better way to describe it. I did use the definition of warm waters versus trout waters and specialty trout waters in the New Mexico fishing regulations map that's in the center of the page. And if you go to that page, you'll see that there's a big highlighted area. It's colored, I think, in pink or blue. one or the other. And basically those are the New Mexico State fishing regulations definition for trout waters. And in the fishing regulations, they say all waters in New Mexico are trout waters except those designated, all waters in New Mexico are warm waters except those designated as trout waters. And then they show you that map. And if you look at it, it looks like it's in the shape of a cup in the northern part of New Mexico that doesn't quite reach either the Texas or Arizona borders. But it's mostly New Mexico's interface with Colorado. And so yes, you're right. Those fishing regulations change year to year. But beginning in 2018, I changed that again on how I saw warm waters, and I came to the conclusion that warm waters, that all waters are warm waters except those designated as trout waters, which implied to me that perhaps the waters that were not in New Mexico but coming into New Mexico were also warm waters. And that's how we ended up on the Colorado state line at the Rio de los Pinos, where it crosses. You've heard me say this before. I can tell you precisely where my warm waters halt with geographic precision because I know exactly where the state line is, and I know where the Rio de los Pinos goes right through the state line from Colorado into New Mexico from the Rio Grande National Forest into the Carson National Forest. And so the question that Dan is asking, well, those change from year to year. And eventually I heard someone else say this, and I'm trying to think who it was, that they won't be here in 100 years. Who knows what those, whether or not we have fishing regulations or whether we have state lines, et cetera, et cetera. So there was this criticism of whether or not those lines would exist. And what we know about politics and government and geography is that, of course, those lines are going to change, whether those lines are established by the fishing regulations or whether they're established by the Supreme Court. As a matter of fact, as a part of this research that I was doing in this area, I discovered that when they surveyed the state line that now exists between Arizona and Utah, because it's the same state line that separates New Mexico from Colorado, that when they surveyed that particular straight line, they made a mistake. It was supposed to be on the 37th parallel, and it's not. It's at about 36, and if I remember correctly, 0.66 or 0.86. But it's not on the 37th. And so for years after that survey was done, and this was back in the 1800s, that survey that was done, there was a fight between Utah and Arizona, between Colorado and New Mexico, about how Colorado had taken land from New Mexico and Utah had taken land from Arizona. And it eventually ended up in the Supreme Court. And I'm going to give you a date. I can't remember whether it was 1825 or 1925. I think it was 1825. And the Supreme Court decided that they would let the mistake stand, to probably to the disappointment of both Arizona and New Mexico, because they lost literally, I think it's hundreds, if not thousands, I'm sure it isn't thousands, hundreds of square miles of land that now belong to Colorado. As a matter of fact, if they had done this correctly, Osher Station, which is in Colorado, would actually be in New Mexico. And you've seen us talk, Osher Station is that railway station, the Cumbres and Toltec Railway midpoint that's near our launch point on the Rio de los Pinos. But they let it stand. So one day, our friend Dan suggests somebody may decide to take that back to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will say, you know what, that's really New Mexico's land. I doubt that's going to happen. But his argument is made, the state that could change. So my response to that has always been, imagine that you're a paleontologist and somebody has told you that in northwestern Colorado, a great discovery of a complete skeleton of a Diplodocus had been discovered. And Diplodocus was this huge, like kind of a brontosaurus style animal with a long neck. It was a foliage eater. It was an not carnivore. What's the opposite of carnivore? Omnivore. he ate foliage. He had the long neck, and he would reach up and he would eat the top of the trees, etc., etc. And so what's been discovered is one of these diplodocai. And you're going to go up there as a paleontologist, you're going to dig it out, and you're going to study it, and you're going to do it in the context of that time period. You're not, as a paleontologist, going to come back and say, you know what, we'd never have diplodocai here because they don't have the trees. They need taller trees. They'd survive. You wouldn't put the diplodocus in today's world and expect them to survive. You would study the diplodocus in the context. You've heard me use this word before. You would study the diplodocus in the context of that period 65 million years ago when diplodocus and the other dinosaurs lived and apparently died. So you have to kind of do that with Fenn's treasure. If you're searching for Fenn's treasure in 10 years and you're looking at the environment, the ecological, the geological changes that have occurred in that treasure hunt, what you're going to have to accommodate is that you're not searching for that treasure in the context of 2020 or 2030 or 3000 or 5000 or whatever it is. You're not doing it in that context, in that period. You have to do your research in the context of when Fenn claims he hid the treasure, and that was, we could say 2009 because he's always been kind of iffy about which one it was. Let's say 2009, 2010. So I wouldn't be looking at the state, the map that's in the state fishing regulation, the New Mexico state fishing regulations from 2020, 2030, 2040, and 2050. I would be looking in my research for the map as it looked in 2010 and as the state lines looked in 2010, because of course, like I said, anything can change. There could be all kinds of dramatic changes for a variety of reasons, from political to geological, that could change all that, but that's not where you're going to do your research. You're going to do your research from that period, 2010, and that's stable. That's fixed. That's not going to change. Though that's already fixed in place and archived. Herbivore. Thank you, Blue Mango. Omnivore eats everything, right? So that's not going to change. So Dan, even though they will change both the map of the trout waters versus the warm waters in the state of New Mexico, and perhaps even the state lines, and in the case that's was important to my search, that could change, but I'm not doing it in that context of that time period. I'm doing it in the context of the time period in which the treasure was hidden, 2010. So it's like a demarcation point, right? The treasure, you have to imagine that the treasure, that anything that happened after 2010 was in addition to the treasure being hidden. And that, that's the point I was trying to make. We did a program back in, I think it was late 2017, where the premise of the program is, what if Fenn had died in October of 2010 after the book was published, and there would be nothing else. There would be no scrapbooks, there would be no Too Far to Walk, there would be no Once Upon a While, there would not be any Once Upon a While revised the revised Once Upon a While. You would not have, you would not have collected works. You would not have Moby Dickens. You wouldn't have any of the videos. You wouldn't have Laureen Mills. You wouldn't have any of those videos that were produced after that. You'd have the video that was done at the video that was done at the Cody Historical Museum in 2006. You would have The Thrill of the Chase, and you would have the poem. That's what you'd be stuck with. And that's what Fenn would have left you with to find the treasure. There wouldn't be all this other material. So that's kind of how you have to look at it, that it's 2010 period, and that anything that happens after that is not going to help you find the treasure any more. Okay, so we might have a really short show here today. Oh, Bill, thank you for the donation. Opinion on the Turn the Wheel in Kyle Lazar's video. So I only saw part of it, and the reason was I went back to a video that, again, we had done years ago about the key word. And I'm going to tell you my problem with the concept, and this is not a problem with Mike's video. I thought he did a tremendous job of explaining it all. So in the video that, if you go back to the video where we talked about what we thought the key word was, Shelley and I expressed different opinions. And my opinion was that the keyword was treasures. And I did all my work in ciphers and codes using treasures as the keyword. Shelley, if I remember correctly, believed that the keyword was bold, not treasures. Anyway, so we talked about that in that video. So treasures to me, for a lot of the reasons that Mike stated, it's got 9 letters. It's the only word it's the longest word in the poem. It's got 9 letters, but it only uses 6 of the letters in the alphabet because let's see, R-E-S are repeated, right? The last 3 letters in the word are repeated. Hi, the softer side. So Shelley is in the room. Hi, Shell. I just talked about you. Do you remember when we did the video on the key word in the poem? Was a long time ago, and I think I selected treasures, and I think you thought it was bold, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make. So Mike and we came to that conclusion a long time ago that we never took it beyond that because other people had already done the work related to the wheel. Here's the problem I have with it. That is, well, there's a couple of problems I had. That's not, codes and ciphers don't work by sliding entire different sentences. They work by sliding lines of letters in the alphabet. And so when you have a key like treasures, that tells you something, but it starts aligning the letters. And what you're looking for is the relationship. And in the case of treasures, there's only 6 letters, T-R-E-A-S-U. Is that right? T-R-E-A-S-U. Those are the 6 letters. So, and they're all unique at that point. So you can take those unique letters and put them into an alphabet, and then you could start sliding them across another alphabet to see if there's any coincidence, is what it's referred to. Whether they coincide with other letters, and then from that you can take that key and you can start breaking down the codes, the code, the cipher. That's what cryptography is all about, actually. So the problem I have with that is that there's only one reason you need to identify a key, and that is with the expectation that it would open a lock. And the lock, generally speaking, is a code or cipher. And Fenn has often said that there are, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure it's often, but I know he has said, there are no codes and ciphers in the poem. There is no other reason to have a key. So when he says the key word, either he's using it, he says when people have ignored the key word, there's a word that is key that will do this. He's using a definition with of the word key in a way that is out of the ordinary. So if you were to say to a specialist from the National Security Agency, which, by the way, Mike Cowling he did work at the National Security Agency. If you use the word key to him, the context for him of the word key would be the context of codes and ciphers, which is how you end up where he ended up. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that Fenn has always said there's no codes and ciphers in there. So then the question becomes, well, if the word that Fenn thinks is key doesn't relate to codes and ciphers, because he said there are no codes and ciphers in the poem, then how is he using the word key when he tells us people are ignoring a key word in the poem? So that's the conundrum with the use of the word key. And let me get back to the question that Bill was asking. So the problem with what Mike and other people have worked the wheel solution, the problem that I have with that is that's codes and ciphers. Fenn has said there's no codes and ciphers, but they started where we all start, and that is, Fenn has already said more than once in various forms, there's a key word that we're all missing, or that we're all not taking advantage of, or something like that. So the conclusion that you have to come to eventually is that Fenn is not using the word key in the way that I would use it, or that Mike Cowling would use it, or that perhaps even Sean Dodson, who spent his career in the intelligence community in the Army, But very specifically, Mike and I, because we were both in the National Security Agency, when you say key to us, our reaction is that it is the key to some sort of cipher or code that would give you a way to break that cipher or code. And that's what that wheel thing, I can't remember what everybody calls it. Hang on. Bill, the turn the wheel. Right. That's the approach that Mike was taking that night, and that's the approach that other people have taken when trying to solve that problem. So, but then you're stuck with Fenn has said there's no codes and ciphers in the poem, and that's exactly what the turn the wheel is, and that's how treasures fits into it as a key. So, I think I've said this 3 times, but I'm going to say it one more time. When Fenn uses the word key to say that there is a key word in the poem that and these are not quotations. I'm not quoting Fenn here. But he said there's a key word and we're missing it, or there's a key word that we're not paying attention to. He's not using the word key in the same way that someone who has spent any time deciphering codes, or working with ciphers or codes, would use the word key. So the question is, how is Fenn using the word key? If it's not that way, because if the word key was a key to a cipher or code, then it should be able to help us unlock the poem. But he said there are no ciphers or codes in the poem. So then we're stuck with a key, the word key, that doesn't have anything to do with ciphers or poem. The question you have to ask at that point is, what the hell is he talking about? If the word key, the way he uses the word key is not ciphers or codes, has to do with ciphers or codes, then what does it have to do with? Because I don't know that necessarily there's a lot of options. Maybe he meant something else. Well, we always say that. Of course he meant confirmation bias, right? He must have meant something else. I think he did. I think he has a definition for the word key that has nothing to do with ciphers or codes. So then the question is, if you look at all the definitions of the word key, which one is he using? Because he didn't use it in the way that I believe. If he used it as the basis for decrypting a cipher or a code, then he didn't tell us the truth about there are no ciphers and codes in the poem. So it's one or the other, right? I believe it is the former. I believe he used key in a way that's completely different from the way it's used in the National Security Agency, for lack of a better way. I can't think of a short way to say that. Okay, so I don't see any questions on my phone here, so I am going to open up the phone line. So if you can call in. The number is 1-866-597-9901 if you want to debate this. Now, I'm kind of concerned right now that for some reason or the other, I'm not going to get this through my switcher. I'm not sure what I did so that I couldn't produce, so I couldn't get sound. Yeah, I am getting nothing out of the Boss Jock, so who knows if we'll get anything. So the only way to find that out is somebody call. Yeah, Loader, Robert Loader, that's right. A legend on a map is a key, right? It is a way to understand the symbols on the map. So maybe that's one of the definitions. So I guess what I'm telling everybody is what everybody should do is go back and look at all the ways that the word key is used in reference to understanding something greater. A legend on a map is a key to the symbols on the map. You're not decoding anything. You're not decrypting anything. You're simply finding a way. There's one box down in the right-hand corner of that map that tells you what all the symbols on that map represents. That's a key, right? So there's lots of ways to use it, and none of which involve decrypting or decoding. So in answer to your question, Bill, I think it's an interesting exercise, but I don't think it'll get you closer to the treasure. And that is not a criticism. Mike is my friend. I'm not trying to be critical of Mike. My perspective is just based on the definition of the word key. And Mike knows that. That's how he ends up, because he's ex-NSA. When you say key, the implication is you have some way to decrypt, decode something, and that's where he went. That's where his training takes him. But that's the Fenn for you, you know? Okay, so I do not see any questions on the line. I don't hear any calls coming in. So we're going to have a very short show tonight, and maybe in the meantime I can also figure out what's wrong with my Boss Jock here tonight, so I can get my sound effects back up. Not sure what that was all about. It's iPad things. The iPad and I are not yet friends, and we need two of them for each program, so it's kind of weird that we have these things and we use it. Of course, I haven't used this since the last time I did one of our AGK shows. So, okay, until the next time, which will not be Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, I hope you and... Oops. RF Hecky, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Hi, Toby.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad the phone worked. I thought, well, I'm going to just give it a try and
I'm glad that you did.
Happens.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did. So I'm going to turn your volume down here just a little bit so we don't blow out everybody's ears in the room. But yeah, I was worried about it because, you know, we haven't made any changes to our setup here in the past, well, in a month now. So I'm kind of surprised that Boss Jock isn't helping me here. Let me see. Tell me if you can hear this on the phone. Can you hear it? No, I can tell. You can't hear it either.
I can't hear anything, no.
All right. Well, so how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Why I'm calling is just the other day I was reading chapters from Too Far to Walk.
Uh-huh.
And you can find those on my channel, right? And
I've
then
been
we got
watching
to chapter
them.
39.
Uh-huh. I've been watching them.
On chapter 39, we found somebody pointed out an error in my book that says that Yellowstone is 54 miles north of Cody, Wyoming. Mm-hmm. And that's what my book says. Mm-hmm. And then somebody pointed out, said that their version of the book says west. That word was changed. It's actually, I've got the very first printing of the book. And I guess I don't know, but is that like a known error that everybody knew about this already, or is that just, you know, we just happened upon it because I happened to have that first book, and then whoever was watching and following along, you know, had a different book.
Yeah. It was corrected. I know it was corrected by the third printing or the third printing of the book. It could have very well been corrected by the second printing, but it was noticed in the first printing because it's so obvious. I mean, if you know that area, you know there's no way that Yellowstone could be north of Cody, Wyoming, that it is west, and that the distance is matched. And it was indeed a mistake that was immediately corrected in following editions. So it was... I remember someone asking Fenn about it, and it was one of those unintentional clues, and he blamed it on editing. He didn't take responsibility for it. He didn't feel like it was his mistake. That somewhere between the time that he wrote it, the time that was written, and the time that it got into the finished product in the first edition, that the mistake was made there then. He knows, of course, better than anyone in this conversation, the distance between, not only the distance between Cody and Yellowstone, and that would be the eastern entrance to Yellowstone, but the direction. You know that it's west, and anybody that's ever looked at the map can tell you that. So I think it was an honest mistake. I don't think there was any intent, and I think had there been intent, he could have easily not changed it, right? If he was giving us some hint or a clue, he could have just left it north and left us arguing and debating why the mistake was made. But it was one of those mistakes, and he admits to making mistakes, that was corrected after the first edition. So So I think it's okay. I didn't.
In,
When I read it the first time, by the time I got my copy of Too Far to Walk, it was beyond the first edition, so I didn't see the error. I saw the error being discussed in one of the forums someplace, and so I checked. I went back to check the first edition. Of course, it was there, but not in following edition, so it was corrected.
well, that's really good to know and really interesting. Because I thought, well, what if that road into East Yellowstone didn't exist when he was a kid, and you really had to go north all the way around, up Bozeman and back down and to get to
West Yellowstone. There is actually a road. If you look on the map, there is a road that goes north from Cody into Montana and back down again to West Yellowstone. And you might have chosen that because that particular road was far more developed than the one from back in his day, from the one from Cody to Yellowstone, to the east entrance at Yellowstone. The road was there, but it was a single lane dirt kind of track more than anything else. So yeah, I suppose you would have had to consider that. But there was never any indication for this, the route that his father took after they visited Cody, because if I remember correctly, he does suggest that they would visit Cody each year on their trip to Yellowstone, and then one would have had to assume, and this is what I did, maybe there's something that I'm missing, that what they would do is go from Cody to the east entrance all the way through Yellowstone, which you would have to do to get to West Yellowstone, and those roads were there at that time, but not quite as developed, which is why, of course, they were limited to traveling at 25 miles an hour. I don't know, honestly, I don't know how anyone would make that trip at 25 miles an hour in a car full of kids and camping gear. That would have just made me crazy. So, but
I know, it sounds horrible.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Like, oh yeah, we're going to go, what is it, 800 miles, 900 miles, and we're going to be driving that at 25 miles an hour. So with stops every X number of miles for, changing the tires or whatever it was. Yeah, it didn't sound like a...
I know he says it.
Yeah, I certainly, if I had been living in Temple, Texas, and somebody had told me we're going to be driving for the next 3 days to get to Yellowstone, I would have said, look, I'm going to play marbles here, thank you. That would have made me nuts. I would either that or I would have killed one of my brothers or sisters in the process, just out of outright anger and frustration. So, all right.
I know he does talk about that he camped at the fishing bridge.
Uh-huh.
And that would be if you went from Cody to West Yellowstone, you would go right
past that. That's right.
Past the fishing bridge or right there. Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of places that he describes in Yellowstone that would have been on that road that leads from Cody to West, that gets from Cody through Yellowstone National Park and into out again in the western entrance through to West Yellowstone. So, yeah. By the way, I wanted to compliment you on your persistence in producing content. You've probably heard my speech before about how YouTube really appreciates you and raises your, quote, status, unquote, the more content that you produce. And I think I really appreciate the fact that you continue to do this, exclusive of what everybody else, suggests you do. You're doing the right thing if it works for you. So have you done any further searching since that last trip that you made at the beginning? Was the beginning of the summer 2018?
Well, I think my search from here on out is going to be in the books.
Yeah.
I think the answer to this is going to be found in The Thrill of the Chase.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to go again and get it. It's like what my boots on the ground taught me is that there's precise location in the book that you're going to need to know before you go anywhere again. And that's what I learned, and that's what I'm going to do.
Well, I think you're doing the right thing. I think you're showing the right amount of patience, and I wish you the best of luck. I can't think of anyone else I'd rather see find the treasure than you.
Well, thank you so much, Toby. And I don't feel like I can stop now, so I'm just going to keep
might as well
going.
keep going at this point, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
I think it's a difficult.
Well, thanks for coming on live tonight. That was really great. It was a nice surprise to see you pop up, and so I'll let somebody else take over from here. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure, and I'm glad that we could. You take care. Be safe.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye now. R.F. Hecky, if you haven't visited her channel, she's at R.F. Hecky, Hecky. She produces what I consider uniquely produced and what I would call primitive, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I think they're raw is what they are. And if you want to watch someone who believes that she has the potential, who believes strongly that she has the potential to find this treasure, and literally is combing through every one of those 3 memoirs to find hints and clues and other things, the least you can say about her is that she's committed. And like Fenn, I believe that the person who finds this treasure is going to be one who is committed, certainly far more than me. Because I'm committed to having a good time. That's what I'm committed to. Anyway, so we've got this new channel opening up, Four Corners Travel .tv. I'm not sure when. We've got so many things going on right now. Between Lady in the Oracle, our Udemy channel, trying to get AGK stabilized. Then I'm not sure when we're going to actually produce anything on this channel. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna spend part of my weekend down at the Very Large Array, just let's see, it would be west of Socorro, New Mexico. It's about 2 hours and some change away from me. But the nice thing about it is there's this great steakhouse in I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's either Datil or Datil, New Mexico. So I'll get a chance to do that. And if I remember correctly, you pass through Pie Town, New Mexico, which is a famous kind of cultural iconic stop that I'm going to be able to go through. But I've always wanted to do some time-lapse work, which is why I worked with my time-lapse equipment this last weekend, and some drone work around there. Now, when you're at the Very Large Array, they tell you, their website says no drone flights in the airspace around the VLA, but I'm going to stand off a distance enough so that I can get a broad overview about it. And actually, eventually, you'll probably see that footage appear in the travel vlog that we do about the Very Large Array, because that qualifies as one of the Four Corners. The other thing that Shelley mentioned before she left today was apparently the White Sands National Monument allows you to night camp on White Sands during the month when the full moon is shining. And apparently because of the white sands and the clarity of the skies, etc., that it's some really beautiful scenery. So we're probably going to do that as well. Anyway, we've got a dozen ideas for this new channel that all involve travel and blogs. None of the travel I'll do in the Four Corner States actually do not coincide with any of the places that you would look for Forrest Fenn's treasure, but we think that's okay. We just want to do it because we like shooting, we like making videos, so we like being on YouTube, and this just gives us another excuse to produce content for YouTube. Okay? All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It was nice to see you all again. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. We will not be on Thursday because it is Thanksgiving, and we hope that you all and you and your families all celebrate a wonderful Thanksgiving. And then we'll be back next week on Tuesday and Thursday of next week at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, and just so you can get together and have the kind of conversations you're already having in the chat room, and I can just talk to myself and whatever. Oh, let's see. We do have one last question. It's from Jason in Iowa. He's just saying happy holidays to you and Shelley and to all the searchers. So Jason Jason from Iowa, wishing you all happy holidays as well. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me tonight. We look forward to seeing you next week. As I said, have a good holiday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving with your family, and we'll see you next week. All right.